there's always that thing about going into your own personal hell, your own personal drama. And that's the personal reference that you start working from. It's that you hit a certain bottom. And from there, you have the desire to really pick yourself up.
Hi, my name's Isabel, and you're listening to The Sober Spill. Today I'm here with my friend, my Duolingo accountability buddy, the other member of a very exclusive book club, and the person I go to when I have ghost questions, Miguel. For the people that don't know you, who are you?
I am Don Miguel Ruiz Jr. It's a pleasure to be on the podcast. Thank you, Isabella.
I know, I'm so thrilled to see you. I wish I got to see you in person. We've talked about this a lot, but we've got a little bit of distance in front of us. Yeah,
such is life, unfortunately. It would be so much fun if we would get to hang out. The trouble we would get into, the music we would listen to, and the records we would buy.
It would be burned to the ground.
Mm-hmm. But about the ghost questions, I always think about the Duolingo bird and chasing up the gravestones and looking out for that one dog that pooped in the one place.
Yeah, I got, at one point I got freaked out because my dog pooped on a gravestone, and I contacted Miguel because I was like, I'm going to get haunted, like for sure. And he assured me that that would not be the case. And so I was able to sleep at night.
It's been a while.
Yeah, and I still have had no ghostly occurrences as far as I know. So I think we're good.
Just the ghost of that little bird letting us know that we're letting each other down, or I'm saving you from your nightmares.
I know, the Duolingo owl loves a guilt trip. Whenever he, for a PR stunt, he died recently, and Miguel and I were checking in on it together.
Mm-hmm. It's like, here's the ghost.
Yeah. So
he reincarnates.
The first time that I met you, I think I've told you this, but I was super intimidated. Like when I got asked to go down to the city with you guys, I was like, who is this guy? Like, he's so fancy. He's so important. And Dan was assuring me that it was going to be fine and it was going to be okay. But my social anxiety was like, this is going to be crazy. And then I ended up having so much in common with you. Like, I think I've just been to a Gorillaz concert. You went to one of the first ever Gorillaz concerts, which is like super cool lore. And yeah, you sang me Isobel by Bjork a bunch of times. And I was like, all right, this guy's cool.
My name is Isobel, married to myself. And I could keep going.
Yeah, it just got into a big Bjork phase. And I was like, this guy knows what's up.
Yeah. And now we're talking about the Smiths.
Yeah, I posted a copy of Cemetery Gates on my story, the song. And you were like, I knew I liked you. I love the Smiths. Yeah, and you explained the Morrissey lore to me. We're also a part of a book club. I'm reading A Taste of Honey right now, about halfway through.
Ooh.
I know. I like it a lot so far. It was there was a quote in it where they talked about it's like a woman's never a child. She's born with the mind of like a 3,000-year-old or something like that. I like that a lot.
Yes. Sheila take a bow.
Yeah, and I've looked into a lot of because you gave me like the lore of it too, that there were going to be other important works based off of it, and so I've looked into a lot of that too, to like accompany the reading of it. We also read, what is it, the Saturday Night Ghost Club, and what's the Donna? Oh, The Secret History. That was a crazy journey.
It's impressive that it never got made into a movie. We totally started talking about how Gwyneth Paltrow would be perfect for that role, and it turns out that she did buy the right, but she didn't do anything with it. I guess it was just the wrong timing or something, but it would have been perfect.
She would have been. Yeah, we did a little fan casting. Yeah. So I wanted to get into both your personal, like some of what you were up to in your 20s. Like, you have such a cool backstory, and I think it's interesting, like the blend of the spiritual aspect of it, and then also like the grunge scene you were into, like all of this different stuff. So I've heard you speak a bunch of times, and I was incredibly impacted the first time when we went finger to finger. I was like, whoa, this is crazy. But I wanted to get into, because I know you apprenticed with your dad and with your grandma. What does that entail? Like, what did that training look like for you?
Well, I was 14 years old, but growing up, my grandmother, we would always go to her sermons and lectures. It was just all my life. Every Sunday, she would give her sermon. and Thursdays as well. And she was also a faith healer, what we know as a curandera. And in spirituality, like, it was just always trying to help people. So when it was time for me to apprentice with her, my job was to translate everything she said, because she spoke nothing, no English, all Spanish, and I had to translate for her. And I got to witness firsthand all her prayers, all her sessions, and just engross in that. And the juxtaposition of that is that my father is, at the time, was still a medical doctor. My uncle's a neurologist. My other uncle's an oncologist. My aunt is a psychiatrist. My mother is a dentist. A lot of doctors. And then you have a psychic healer, as a grandmother. So you have the duality right there. And I was going to school in Tijuana, in Mexico, but living in the United States. So I crossed the border every day to go to school in Tijuana to be part of this international baccalaureate. So there's another duality there. Just constant juxtapositions, academics with spirituality. So my father was this nice little in between the two, because being a doctor himself, he started teaching and apprenticing with my grandmother. And he saw there was a lot of superstition. So he just changed a lot of the wording to something that he calls common sense, at least to him. And he put it in a language that I could understand. So all three brothers learned different. Like, I have two brothers, Leo, Jose, and myself. Leo, he was the youngest. He's 10 years younger than me, and he was into poker. So my father taught him through poker. I was into academics, so he taught me through logic and that kind of language. And my brother Jose, he was really into the spiritual, so he's taught him in spirituals. He always adapted and changed the traditions. So for us, it was always going to see my father teach and give his workshops or see my grandmother. And for us, Jose, we would pay attention to the class, but at the same time goof around and go exploring. Like, me and Jose would just sometimes leave the facility and just start going and exploring places, looking for coffee shops or record stores or places to hang out, and just got to know the place and come back and listen to my father's presentation. And then it was our turn to teach. So the way he would make us really engage the tradition was he was put us forward and make us start talking in front of all these people, and whatever came out was what came out. But he always taught us this: if you don't know, don't talk about it. Only talk about what you know, because that's what's going to keep it authentic. Never prepare for a presentation or a lecture, because you're going to forget. Talk from the heart. Talk about what you know. If you don't know it, don't touch it. And from when I started, it was just sharing little snippets here and there of stories. And then it became bigger and bigger the more I experienced life, the more I got into my 20s. My father didn't want to push me too much while I was at school. He wanted to keep my mind fairly grounded. So when I graduated college back in 1999, it was, he went off, how can I say this? He didn't hold back. He began to really push my apprenticeship with him. Like, that's where my grandmother stopped being my main teacher, and he became my teacher. And he really pushed me to beyond my own fears, by my own expectations, and realizing that I wasn't who I thought I was. That image of self that I had, that personal importance, wasn't that image. I realized that I was corrupting the 4 agreements and turning it into the 4 conditions, and always finding these little loopholes by which I can get away with. But when the 4 agreements came out, I bought the book at a bookstore, because that's what I like to do. Even though my dad gave me his copy, I went and bought my own because I want to buy it. I read up until chapter 3, and I put the book down, because it was my dad telling me what to do all over again. That's the thing about my father is still a great teacher, but to me, whenever he teaches, it sounds more like a do this than actual sage wisdom. Then, as my 20s rolled and experienced a lot, living in the Bay Area, hanging out with people who would go to Burning Man, and working in the film industry, going to a lot of concerts and festivals, and just going up and down the coast, because I worked in the film industry, and I worked in Mexico, I worked in Los Angeles, I worked in San Francisco, and I would go anywhere. I was just living off my car and just enjoying production life, just go, 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 go. It was just In production and film production, your shortest day is 12-hour days. That's a really short day. We averaged 18 to 20 hours. We would get very little sleep and just go, go, go. And then when I have time off, I just, I was living in the Bay Area, so we did Bay Area things. And I had a breakup, someone I loved very much, and I lost because, you meet that one someone that you couldn't project blame. It was all me. It's like when I was younger in relationships, they would tell you the best way to get over someone is to date someone new. So I did that, and I did a lot. And the freight train just started growing, growing, growing until you fall in love for the very first time, like to that level of seriousness. And it all comes crashing because the insecurities and all kind of thing. And when I lost her, that's when I picked up the book, The Four Agreements, and began to really apply it, use it like a lot of people use it, and as an instrument to help to heal. So I say this because going back to your original question, what it was like to go through apprenticeship, it's exactly that. My father never protected us or try to keep us from our own personal hell or our own mistakes and stuff like that. We went through it, all three of us went through rehab in different ways. And for myself, I was as part of the whole East Bay world, like a lot of ecstasy, a lot of drinking, a lot of those kind of drugs and stuff like that one would get used to, just like it was what you would do in red culture or party culture or goth clubs as well, because I went to a lot of those goth clubs in those places. But then it comes to the point where I see the result of what I've created and I begin to shift. So I began to use the Four Agreements, and the very first thing I stopped using was drugs and alcohol. Drugs actually. Alcohol was a lot tougher to let go of until I was like 40, and I started having sleep apnea, and that really made me let go of alcohol. So that's when my father really began to pick up, because there's always that thing about going into your own personal hell, your own personal drama. And that's the personal reference that you start working from. It's that you hit a certain bottom. And from there, you have the desire to really pick yourself up.
Yeah. Yeah. We talk about that a lot in recovery too. And I love that you mentioned the first time you read the book, you were like, oh, it's my dad talking at me. Cause it's like, there's so many times I'll get outside advice and I'll be like, Mom, so-and-so told me this. She's like, I told you that too. But when it comes from a parent, I'm like, eh.
Yeah. And it's my curse because now my kids are doing the same thing to me. So here we go.
So who is your father? We've been referencing this mystery author for some time. Do share.
Well, my father is Don Miguel Ruiz, author of The Four Agreements, Mastery of Love, and a bunch of other books. But he's mostly known for The Four Agreements. And he's a Nahual shaman and my teacher, my father. And he has done his very best to teach me and my brothers so many things. And, he teaches everyone in the world. And it took us, his sons, some time to actually start paying attention, and usually came at a crossroads when we decided to shift direction in some way in life.
And that makes sense. Like what you said about him not saving you from going through your own hell. I know I used to always be like, anytime after I got sober, especially where things kept getting hard, I was like, when does this end? Like, when does it stop being so hard? But thank God that it continued to be, because I'm glad I didn't settle for the person I was like when I first got sober. Pain is a growth point, as annoying as that can be when you're going through it.
Yeah, it's the thing that makes us appreciate everything we have. It's the moment we realize I don't want to experience that anymore, and we actually do the work. It's a teacher once taught me this lesson. The key to enlightenment is effort. That's it. That's all she ever said. And I just translate it to a lot of things. The key to recovery, the key to anything is effort. And effort is just using the energy that moves the body and mind to manifest anything. It's just taking a step. That's all effort is. Just the willingness to reach out and figure out what went wrong with the audio and the microphone. You try to figure out, and that's the effort to find a solution because we have desire to have a certain outcome. That's effort. Discipline is remembering to apply that effort every day. So forget about the drill sergeant. It's just every day, just making that choice, and success is following through. So, but you have to have that motivator that makes us want to go beyond that.
Totally. I always tell people, I'm like, sadness is the spice of life, because if you aren't sad, then like nothing's going to be happy. But you mentioned, I forget what the word is. I wrote it down. I don't know how to pronounce it. I wrote Nagual. I'm certain. Yeah, that's not how it's pronounced.
Nahual.
But what does that entail? Because I Googled it and a bunch of pictures of like crazy animals came up. So I want to know what that is, because I know you are one, correct?
Yes, I am. Well, it has many definitions. It's a spiritual leader, spiritual guide. Yeah, as the energy that animates body. If, like, for example, if I use Nahuatl here, in order for an object to move, there needs to be a force that moves that object. If I translate a little bit, in order for tonal, which is my body, in order for the tonal to move, there needs to be a Nahual that moves it. So I'm the energy that animates this body. And it's a shapeshifter. It's shapeless. The energy is shapeless. So a lot of the metaphors in Mexico describes someone who's able to shapeshift into animal being or power animals or whatnot. There were always metaphors, but in truth is that we're able to constantly transform. We're never stagnant. That's what we just talked about right now. We have our moments when we're in our low points. And the beautiful thing about us is that we can transform from that. We can either stay there or make the choice to redirect our attention and shift our direction, and we changed. And the more we change, the more how we relate to others changes. Because if I have all this pain or this anger in me, I'm always going to be letting it out with someone else. But if I heal that anger, if I heal all that other stuff, then how I relate to other people is really different. It's going to be impactful. So I've changed right there. I transformed right there. So you can say that we're masters of our transformation.
Okay, that makes a lot more sense now. After explaining it, my brief Google deep dive left me more confused, I think, than I entered. So yeah, that makes perfect sense. And I like what you said about, as long as you have all this pain and insecurities in you, you're going to, I had a sponsor once that called that spilling on someone else. When it's not their feeling, I'm spilling mine onto them. Yeah, until you heal that, you're going to continue to live in that. I saw a quote I went on your website too to check this out. I was doing my research, but
Nice.
How your dad said to you, what is it? Go home and master death by becoming alive. What does that mean to you?
Well, I'll tell you a story.
Okay.
About how that happened. So it happened when I graduated college, and he went all out, and we went to Teotihuacan, and we do what we call power journeys. Teotihuacan is a city in Mexico, an old ruins of a city made by the Toltecs or whoever was Teotihuacanos. We don't really know the name of the original city. Everything we know about is named after the Aztecs. Anyways, so we're on top of the Pyramid of the Sun, and we've really worked really hard for a whole week. And at the top of the Pyramid of the Sun, I'm going to get woo on you. So he shifted the assemblage point. It's a lot of people who seek spirituality, they take all this ayahuasca and all this other stuff to have that moment of clarity, whatever. Well, I had it without any of that. It was just a moment where we worked so hard the whole week of trying to undo, let go. And then you hit this moment, and all of a sudden, you take a big breath. And all of a sudden, you see everything as if you're for the first time. You look around and everything is just absolutely beautiful. You let go of every single filter that needs to describe or give name to everything, and you see it just as it is. I was able to let go of that image of self that we would call ego, and saw life as is. And it was beautiful. Like right now, I'm remembering that moment, and it was a wonderful experience. At that point, my dad turned to me, and that's when he said, now go home, master death by becoming alive, and realized that the biggest fear is not death, is living. Living is the biggest fear, not death. So that's the other part to that quote that didn't make the cut on the edit floor, but I'll give it to you because that's how it went. The thing about it, and this is, the most unfortunatest, sorry, I just bubbled that, inconvenient time, because the whole time with my girlfriend at the time, it was, imagine being here, like you have this aha moment, and it feels this wonderful experience, and you think, I'm done. I've done all the work. This is automatic. I'll be here for the rest of my life. And I slowly start feeling the wounds coming back little by little. And you can feel that insecurity. You can feel that. And you try to stay up. And at that point, because it was just fairly recent, I could go back really quickly to that spot. And I would feel a little bit of jealousy, whatever. And I would go back like, that's right, I caught myself. My brother has this saying, it's like whenever you catch yourself going down, you say, good one. That's what the process says. So at that point, it was easy to just say, good one, and I was packed up. But then I went back home and I started living my life. And little by little, I thought I was still up here. But in reality, I was slowly going like this. I was slowly going like this. That whole lifestyle, everything, going to the clubs, going to the parties, going all this stuff, no longer fit. And I really wanted to go back. I just wanted to go back to being what I was, to go back and this. And I was lying to myself because I wasn't pretending. And all along, that's when the situation with my girlfriend at the time, no names, of course, was started going down. And I wasn't who I pretended to be. And all this stuff that I refused to process because I'm supposed to be a guy. And, you don't admit this, you don't acknowledge that, you're whatever stupidity I believed back then. I went down, 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 down. We broke up, and there was no blame, and it just kept going down, down, down. And then I hit that bottom. I hit it to the point where one day, it's like it was the only time. All right, fine, I'll say it. It's the only time I ever considered suicide. It's the only time I hit this one bottom, and the old world of mine no longer fit. I could no longer lie to myself. And I still remember sitting in this little bridge in downtown San Diego, Spruce Street Bridge, just sitting there thinking about it. And ultimately, I didn't. You know how Smith has songs save your life? An Interpol song hit, sleep tight, good vibe, you good. When yourself out, you can't sleep tight, sleep tight. Also, in that song, I mumbled the lyrics, but you might know the Interpol song. Just told me, just go to sleep. Just go to sleep. Just go to sleep. You'll wake up in the morning. Just go to sleep. And I did. I went to sleep. I went home. I went to sleep. And the next morning was, all right. I'm making a shift. It took me a few days to recover. And then I was with my dad. We went back to Teo, and I turned to my dad and says, I'm with you, Papa. And basically with that, I acknowledged to him, like, all right, I'm ready to do the work. And that's when I picked up the 4 agreements. So go home, master death by becoming alive. I had to let go, not just of who I was and letting go of all these beliefs that got in the way of giving me my healing, but also I had to give myself the permission to heal.
Yeah, that's an awesome point. And I love that you brought up the going to sleep and sleeping it off, because I've struggled a lot in my life with suicidal ideation too. And that's always you could do it tomorrow, just go to sleep and reassess how you feel. Also, when you're moving your hands around a lot, I don't know what you were doing, but I kept making like a bunch of hearts shoot out. Like,
Oh, like
and it
this?
reminded, yeah, see, and it reminded me of sometimes when I'm in therapy, it'll be doing that, and I'll do something like I'll be describing something really devastating, but I talk with my hands, and so I'll be like, and then that happened, a bunch of fireworks go off. It's so
Oh,
funny.
like this. This is the
Yeah.
show.
Yes, I'll be like, I'll be describing like a great trauma, and then it's like a light show. It's so funny.
So my life in Berkeley was more like this kind of
Yeah.
lifestyle, and we just enjoyed it, and that was it.
Yeah, we're gonna tell everyone that our editors did that. We're like, they're working tirelessly to do a light show.
I'm down with that.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
Now
If
you're
that says
just
anything, oh,
trying
there it
to,
is.
yeah, that's what
There
happens
it
in
goes.
therapy. Yeah.
You know, if you do this, makes it rain.
Does it really? You're like well equipped. You're doing all this in your free time. You're like filming yourself and being like,
Well,
what's
I
that?
learned it because my son who has autism,
Yeah.
he was at a school, and we were only talking video. So we discovered we can do this. So we were just trying to figure out all the ways we can make all these visuals pop up. So it came from that, talking to my son.
Yeah. Yeah. Where was that? Was out in like middle America, right? That was in,
Made in Kansas. In
yeah.
Kansas.
Yeah. I remember you sent really good chocolate from there. Like
Yes.
crazy chocolate. It was so
I'll
good.
send you more.
Amazing. I look forward to it. My sweet tooth is so bad. There's a candy store in town. On the way home from work, I'm like, I'm going.
There you go.
But so back with like your personal life and everything, like you and I have talked a lot about the significance of music as people who like really indulge in it and how live music is really like a spiritual experience. You also play music and sing. Like when did that become something that you picked up, and what does that do for you in your life?
Well, I picked up my first guitar. I bought my first guitar when I was 17 years old, and my ADHD never really allowed me to really get deep into it. But in the last few years, especially after having a concussion, as you can probably hear a little bit of stuff, effects, it became part of a therapy. So I really got into it, and for some reason, I began to understand it. You know, it's like I've had this guitar. I bought it when I was 17 with the money I earned from my very first paycheck from my very first job. So all the money from my very first paycheck is right here. And you know, I've been playing it, and then I got some other guitars, and I just play. I learned to play music. You know, this is one of my favorites ones. How to play guitar, the Smiths and the Beatles and things like that. For me, it's just relaxation, you know. And I post it on my personal social media, sometimes the public. You know, Dave Grohl said something, and I apologize if I'm gonna try and quote him.
No, I love Dave Grohl.
Dave Grohl said, "Don't be afraid to suck. Don't be afraid to be horrible. Be willing to suck." So when I post it, it's like, all right, this is what I'm doing. It's not, I'm singing out of tune. I'm playing not the great, but this is where I'm at. And the whole idea is, as time progresses, the more I practice, the better it's going to sound, and you'll get to see that evolution. But it starts with the willingness to suck in front of everyone, you know?
Yeah.
But with that, you start getting this confidence of like, all right, I'll get over that little fear and start playing in front of people, and that feels good. So like, I also use it as a motivator. I'm about to post this on social media. I'm better practice, otherwise it's going to be terrible. But that's the whole point too. So it's I do it as a challenge to myself to go beyond fear, but also to relax me, and from a doctor's point of view, create new synapses in my brain.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's, yeah, you've got to practice everything. Like you're going to be bad at it at first. That's even how with like language learning I am, where I know I'm not good at it, and I'll still practice when we're out in public. And sometimes I think I'm being sneaky when I'm like speaking Italian around other people. And then I realized like I was sharing this with my coworkers. I called someone an alcoholic. Someone was like drinking really hard at Easter, and I looked at Ryan and I was like, "Lei è una alcoholica," and everyone knows what that means. Like alcoholic is not subtle in any way or anything.
Yeah.
I was like,
Alcoholica, no.
yeah, I
It's
was like, I'm
straight
so
to the point.
sneaky.
It's
Yeah.
it's not too far off from the English version. We're gonna get out of here.
Yeah. My sister was like, no, it wasn't subtle, but it was funny. I'm like, that's what counts.
Yeah, that's the whole point. Yes.
Um, and so where do you find inspiration from? Because like with all of these creative endeavors, I think there's something inherently creative about spirituality too. Like where do you
Hmm.
take your inspiration from?
Everything is just it's. I see inspiration like I'm a California boy, so I'm gonna
Uh-huh.
describe it from a California. Inspiration comes at you like waves. You can't force a wave. So in order, if you want to ever surf a wave, you have to be patient, but you also have to paddle out there and learn how to duck. Duck dive. When the wave's coming, you have to learn how to go underneath the water and underneath the wave. But you have to be able to have the skills to get yourself out there, and which is the willingness to suck. Go out there, and then once you're out there, be patient. The waves will come. Sometimes when the expression surfs up, it means the waves are coming, and then there's other days where the waves are so little that there's no point in going out there. That's when you go skateboarding or so whatever. That's the hot dog town, dog boys, dog town starts. But I find it in little thoughts that all of a sudden pique my interest. Like a someone's talking to someone, sometimes reading something, sometimes listening to music, sometimes just interacting, sometimes even walking, sometimes doing yoga. I'm sitting there and I'm like, I have this idea. I'm going, snap, I can't right now. Lay it down in this position. But it comes. And when you're able to catch it, you put down pen and paper or start playing something or just grab an iPhone and start talking. We do that a lot. I grab an iPhone and start hitting the record and I start just babbling, kind of like the way I'm doing right now. And you write it. You simply write it. You can't force it. When you have writer's block, is that you're trying to force a wave to come and you can't force it. You have to live life. So sometimes I would when I be writing my books and I'm editing and I hit that point where I'm like, the wave is gone, but I have a deadline. I just redirect my attention and start playing guitar or go downstairs, play drums, hit the piano or listen to music and just redirect my attention. And all of a sudden it just comes back in. It just like, I remember what I was going to say. So I'm going to start talking. So it comes from different places. It's not just one thing. It's a conversation you have with someone driving from Canaan to New York and someone sitting in the back seat and I'm sitting in the front and we start talking, and you're trying to get Dan to talk. Sorry.
Forcing him. Yeah.
But
He's
you have
catching
conversations like
strays.
that. It just flows. Just all of a sudden, that night we just talked and talked and talked and talked. That's inspiration. Sometimes you meet someone or in a situation where you just can't shut up. But if you don't shut up, you won't be able to hear what the other person has to say. So you start playing ping pong, and that's the fun thing. That's just an experience right there.
Yeah, we haven't stopped talking since.
Nah, just the damn distance.
I know. That was a very California way to describe inspiration too, being like, it's either skateboarding or it's surfing. It was like deeply Californian.
Yep, and I have my longboard and I have my shortboard.
Yeah. Yeah, and I imagine it's also like the same thing that you described, like how to get out of writer's block, like taking a break and focusing your efforts somewhere else. I remember when you were editing your book, it was so hard to just like put the pen, like just stop, being like, this is good, this is done. So I know you've written a couple of books, but when is this one coming out? Do you have a launch date? And can you tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah, the next book is called The Poisoned Arrow. It's about fear. It's about facing your fear in different ways. It's August 26th of this summer. So this book is different from the other ones in the sense that how it was done. It was post-concussion, so I needed a little extra help. So me and Randy and our editors at the Hierophant Publishing, I recorded a lot because the problem I had is that when I would be reading, I already have attention deficit, but this time I would fall asleep. Like if I'm reading a book or something, about 2 or 3 pages, I just fall asleep. That's my doctor says that's just me training. It's like relearning how to ride a bike or starting to run again, and you get tired quicker. So you just have to work. So with a deadline, that's not gonna help. So we started doing it. All right, I'm not falling asleep if I'm talking, obviously. So I started recording a lot more, and we transcribe it, and we went into a lot more editing. We went into editing quicker this time because I talked more. Like I was able to create all this. When you write with your heart and you edit with the mind. That's from a movie called Finding Forrester. And the way that goes is that when you first create a draft, you're basically spewing it. You're just letting it all out. It doesn't have to be pretty. It doesn't have to be precise. It doesn't have to concise. It doesn't have to be grammatically corrected. Just let the ideas out. Let it out. As a writer, you have to get to the point where you trust yourself not to edit as you're writing. You have to let the thought out. So it takes a huge level of trust to be able to resist the urge to edit as you write, to let it out. And when I'm talking, I'm just letting it out. There's no editing. So this book was written with a lot more ping pong, basically a lot of recording and facing fear. And in the middle of it, I'm dealing with this cancer scare that luckily for me, we caught it super early, and all I had to do was some more life changes. If I didn't make life changes before, now I'm making even more. And it helped me quite a bit, but I had to face fear for real. And not as a concept, but as a fact. And then that's what this book's about. It's this process of like, I want to live. It's the same thing that I used to let go of alcohol and drugs and things like that back in stages, of course. But I want to live. And that's what this book, in essence, it is. It's like fear is an ally that we can use. But if you abuse it the way we abuse alcohol and drugs, it'll corrupt our life. And we corrupt it with irrational fear, false evidence appearing real. That's how we begin to abuse it. But real fear, its job is to keep us safe, is to protect us, to make us become aware. And it's usually the thing that makes us shift direction, because all of a sudden we want to live. The necessity to survive.
I love that. I didn't know what that was about, but I love that so much. The whole, the I want to live is so profound. And I know that in sobriety, I've had that moment, and so many other people too. And we realized for the first time, oh, this is something I want to do, even though it feels so innate for some people. But yeah, I look forward to reading that. That's so exciting.
And that's why I want to share. I knew who I'm talking to. I'm like, oh, this is, we get to talk in those meetings. We're like, all right, this is my honesty. This is what I went through. Yeah. So yeah, that's what it is.
All right. Amazing. Okay. Well, thank you for coming today, Miguel. It was so exciting chatting with you. I wish once again.
It was a pleasure.
I wish you were
great
here.
To hang out with you.
I know, you're a good hang. If you are interested in seeing more of Miguel, all of his socials and information will be in the chat below. Look out for his book on August 26th, The Poisoned Arrow, coming out. And yeah, follow, subscribe if you want more Sober Spell, and I'll see you soon.
If you or a loved one is struggling with addiction, Mountainside can help. Call 860-365-6764 to speak with our caring treatment team.